now what's happening. The meeting is being live streamed. That's a good thing. I press got it. And what I'll do now, Bejoy, I'll just wait till it comes onto my live page.
Okay.
So we are live now, so stop swearing, please.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. I can't guarantee that I will, but there we go. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, we're live there. And great.
We got anybody watching us?
Not just at the moment, but we've only just gone on this couple of seconds ago. So
yeah,
let's see. Right. So as soon as I see some comments come up, we'll start going.
Okay.
Comments will appear here. There we are. There we go. There's some hearts coming up. Amanda Summers watching. Hello, Amanda. Nice to see you. Thanks very much. No rude comments, please, anybody. And if you want to ask any questions, I'll keep an eye on this and we'll see where we go. Bejoy, it's a pleasure to meet you. And thanks very much for agreeing to come on this, what I call Getting Real with Dr. Joe, because I think to me, when I set this up, it was really about having people come on and just open up and share their experience, their strength and their hope with us, really. And maybe talking about how they've been through stuff and how they've come out the other end, maybe, and maybe offering some maybe solutions and practical, simple, small, practical tips to people to go forward.
Right.
So I'm going to hand over to you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too. And thank you for making this happen.
My pleasure. And how did we get in touch with one another?
Well, let's review that.
Okay.
So I've been watching you, on Sology, on Soul Speaks 5D, and on this broadcast for a while. I just got a message from a friend said there's a mix-up on the times, but whatever. So, and I've been listening to this broadcast. So go back now. When was the eclipse quarter? September, October. I came out of the eclipse quarter, surprised I was still alive in physical form, because I had been going through a lot of physical things as I been, particularly with the back of my knees, which I knew I was working my masculine, feminine energy. So when I come out of these states, then I'm always, my observer is like, well, so what has changed, in terms of energetically, spiritually, mentally, whatever. And one of the things that came up was that something I've been experiencing for quite a while is, how can I say this? My memories took a fast track through my mind. They were going like this, whoa, whoa, whoa. And this took me, I thought, oh, this is very, very interesting. This took me back to the mid-90s when I was working when I was spiritually strong enough for my childhood to rise to the surface so that I could understand what had been happening with me. And I was working with 3 fantastic healers, energy worker, a chiropractor, and an acupuncturist who were working on my body. And I was off with what I call my divine psychiatrist, trying to find out why I was not able to access these memories. I knew it happened, but why wasn't I getting at them? So during one of the sessions with my divine psychiatrist, my mind went to look up hippocampus. So I thought, okay, and that's the seat of your memories. And my mind started going, well, I had 2 car accidents during the time of the abuse. And from what the information I was reading, if my hippocampus got out of place there, that could be a possible reason why I could not access these memories. Okay. So I developed some other strategies for doing this over the years, but then it's been following with me, since maybe 2014. Like I was sharing with you, one day my mind will go to all the restaurants I ate around the world, just ran willy-nilly,
Yeah.
And then other mundane things would happen. And then I noticed that what was happening, I know. I would have a very vivid memory where I was energetically in a place and I couldn't place it in this lifetime. And I would go through lots of consternation around, well, how come I don't remember this? And then I just learned to let it go. And then recently what's happened before this eclipse quarter, I was going in, like one day I went to a donut shop in California. I mean, I don't eat donuts that much, but I wasn't there in memory. I was there energetically. Huh? Yeah. I thought, how fascinating. So I come up in my puzzle making task of my life. I thought, do you know, I think all this high frequency energy coming in has regenerated my hippocampus. Now, wouldn't that be interesting? Because at the same time, I mean, I've been going on raw faith. I don't tap into any of my multidimensional thing. Well, of course I couldn't, because how could I if my hippocampus was, and now that's starting to come in. I said, this is a particularly amazing process. I think I'm going to write to Dr. Joe because he deals with bioelectrical and biochemical processes. And I'm going to see if he confirms it. So I got in touch with you. You were in the midst of moving. You said, I'll get back to you later. I said I was going to write it all out for you. I wrote it all out. I said, I don't need confirmation. This is what happened. Huh? Yeah. Just go with it. So I got to you and I said, I figured it out, but if you'd ever like to talk one-on-one about an interesting case study, get in touch with me. So I didn't hear from you for whatever. And just last week or the week before, I was sitting looking at a post you made about a conversation you were going to have. At the same time, your message came through, do you want to be on the show? And I was like, oh, this is pretty significant from the universe. I think I better pay attention to it. So I said yes. And then I sent you all sorts of information. And I sat back after I sent it. I thought, this man knows more about my life than anybody else on earth. I hope I've done a good thing here. And that I said to you, do you think we should go ahead with this? How be if we just talk individually? And you said, no, we're going ahead. So I trusted you. So that's how we're here today.
Well, that's marvelous. And thank you for trusting me. And everything that you sent me is private and confidential. I would never discuss. Yeah. No, okay. No. Well, that's fine.
It's not. It's open to the world. Hey, you know, one of the things I said to you, I have no need to talk about these things. I'm feeling right in this moment, very complete. Next week, I may not feel complete, but I'm feeling very complete. I don't have, here's my intention. If this can serve, I would like it to serve me because I would be really interested in hearing some of your reflections on some of the things that I have and am going through. And two, if all of that's helpful for somebody else, then great, you know? And plus, I just want to have fun.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that's they call me Dr. Lightheart, you know, but there's a part of me that's probably one of the most serious men on the planet, you know, right? Because I've been through stuff. I've been through really deep, dark stuff. You know, I made 3 attempts to try and do myself in completely, and they failed. So there probably is a reason why they failed, and I know quite clearly why that is. It's basically to sort of recount my experiences, share them honestly and openly, and talking about physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual things, you know, and just if it resonates or rings true or has an effect on somebody that improves their life, that's all I'm bothered about, you know.
I probably should also add that next week at this time, I'm going to be 80 years old.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a milestone that I am here talking to you and healthy is a true miracle, huh? And the process I've been going through has been amazing. Everything is coming back for cleanup or dusting off or integrating, and this is all part of this process. So
where I'm up to is, I don't fully know, but I do believe there are massive cosmic changes taking place universally. Yes. They're impacted upon the galaxy. The galaxy is impacted upon the planet. We're on the planet, so there's a great big vibrational cleansing shift going on. You know, if you're into yoga at all, they sort of predict this, cycle wise, you know, and we're at the end of or going through the Kali cycle, which is probably the lowest of the low. And I feel that I don't think there's ever been a time when the world's been in such a dreadful state, you know. Now, I'll say that because I think that we're at the sort of the pits now, you know, and I think that there's an upturn. So there's a positive thing for this. And what I learned was years ago, over 32 years ago, I actually surrendered totally my will and my life over to the care of the universe, right? I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I did it with somebody else who'd been through the same process. And the day afterwards, my whole outlook on life was changed. I felt positive. I felt that there was a purpose. And from that day on, I just take every single day as it comes, and I wait for the information to come to me rather than going out to search for it externally. And what seems to happen, Bejoy, is it's so almost like my heart opened up like a book, and I get information on a need to know basis. And that's, you know, and I don't go looking anymore, you know.
Me too.
And I take action. So basically I take action on the information that's provided, and then I get the results then after I've taken the action, because I honestly believe that we're all going through this great big planetary shift in consciousness now. Where I'm up to, and this might be nonsense, and I say to people, you know, please don't believe a single word I say unless it sits true with you, you know. And then maybe look a bit deeper for yourself, go and research, see if it makes sense to you. But more than anything else is, I feel that there's certain actions need to be taken in order to ground it and allow the circuit to be fulfilled so that we can actually go forward. Because I think what's happened to a lot of people is we've revolved and revolved and revolved for eons of time. And I think it's time to let go now and be done to by something that's much more powerful than us. And just to say, I think that the brain is the organ of the mind, you know, so what's going on in these sort of invisible realms is actually becoming much stronger now. So what's actually happening is all the cells in our body are changing now and almost like being reverted to a perfectly aligned template. What do you think about that then?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been listening. Let me just back up here to provide a context. For me, sitting here almost turning 80 and looking back on my whole life, particularly since 40, when I really had my profound shift in consciousness, it's like I've been putting together a piece of a puzzle. And just what you said, that a piece comes in and you put it down, and then more pieces come in. The older you get, there's more pieces. And it's like looking at each piece, where does it fit? How does it connect? I think what I'm seeing in the younger folks going through this is there's big pieces of the puzzle missing that they haven't quite gotten at. I've got all the big pieces there. No, I got one more that came in that I've got to work. It was a big hole in my puzzle. It's my father energy, but I won't talk about that. But it's then going back and looking at those pieces, and I shared with you, I really like this concept of a kaleidoscope. So you put this kaleidoscope on this piece and you turn it and you look at it from different perspectives. You know, that could be a psychological perspective, an astrological, a spiritual, but you don't arrive at one, aha, this is what it is. So it's and I love times like this, because sometimes I've been so down in the pieces. It's times like this that I get to step back and look at the puzzle and say, oh, look at this. You know, it's sort of all coming together. And then the other thing that I just came up with this, and I'm going to get back to answering what you're saying. I decided to call my spiritual path as one of toggling, because this is what I have done. Obviously, I came in with a whole lot of information, but on one side of this toggling in the beginning was Eckhart Tolle. The Power of Now was my Bible. Then it became Adyashanti. It was very useful. Then probably someone not well known, Satri. He's an American-born spiritual teacher that actually is aware of everything that's going on from the cosmic perspective and has been through it. So I was, and then most recently, there's this couple, Amodama and Kavi, who I think are very in tune, up-to-date, non-dual people. And then over here on this side, and I got a little stuck here. I mean, I managed to stay out of the New Age stuff, huh? Mm-hmm. But then as we got in to the 2000s, I started learning about from Karen Bishop around what was happening on planet Earth. But then when we get into those that are coming at it, and particularly probably after 2012, I honored the gifts of everybody that got them during that time. But it was like, I was like watching what's going on here, huh? Is what is happening. And unfortunately, I got stuck in I got moved away from my toggling and got too much into the other, because definitely part of my path is working with abundance, or the density of money. And what's recently happened to me is I said, wow, what I thought was judgment was really discrimination. I knew that way back when. How come I didn't stick with my own knowing? How did I get so pulled off? And not all of that was certainly negative. I mean, I spent time in an apartment with Maureen Moss, and there were other on this other kind of path. So what I've done is toggle between these. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. As the external information coming in. And it was really interesting that one of the people that I really tune in today is Lori Ladd. I mean, I think, I think she's calling the question on the spiritual bullshit, huh? In the community. And is down to the basics of we're in an evolutionary process, and your feelings, they're just energy, you have to let them flow through, and I really appreciated her, and I was listening to her, and then I went over to Amodama and Kavi, and they were at a podcast, Can We Meet the World Without Being Reactive? And I listened to it, and I thought, she's saying the exact same thing Lori's saying. However, her words resonate more with me. It must be the vibration, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like all the jargon that's out here. I don't get downloads. I get uploads. No,
I couldn't agree more. I say that. I get uploads because it's almost like my heart, right, in the present moment presents me with the information that action needs to be taken on. And that's all I work from, is just here like this. It's like a plate, and there's information, or there's feed on there like a menu, and I just do that and go forward, but my ego wants to kick in from up here, or why is that? Right. And again, don't worry, because I know what it is that's guided me. Don't worry, Joe, you don't need to know.
Yes.
And I think, okay. And I'm in a position now where I used to need to know everything beforehand. So if I didn't like the feeling of it, I would duck and dive and dodge and weave. I don't get that opportunity now, really. I just do what's presented, and I don't care anymore. Where I've come to now is I couldn't give two hoots about what anybody else thinks of me anymore, and that's a great big relief for me, because I was such a people pleaser that people would ask me, can you do me a favor? And before they'd finished and I knew what the favor was, I would be saying yes. Nobody asks me, Bejoy, nobody asks me anymore to do favors because they know what the answer is going to be.
In the past. Yes.
So they know what the answer is going to be. But I agree with you. My big thing is that if I'm feeling emotionally disturbed, this is where I've come to for me, then it can't be the divine part of me that's upset, because that doesn't get upset. That just flows all the time. So it must be my ego. And my ego operates both consciously and unconsciously. And you've spent a lifetime in communication. 4/5 of the information we received is processed right below the level of our consciousness. And that's really, it's instincts actually in collision with one another that creates the emotion, that creates the feeling, that drives our choices. And I didn't know this. I spent all my life being emotionally reactive and pointing the finger to the outside, almost saying, if that didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be like this. And somebody said to me in Alcoholics Anonymous, they said, Joe, do you know what victim consciousness is? And I said, I don't know what you mean. They said, that's all you're doing. You're pointing the finger outside when at every level, you're allowing these things to happen to you. And
Right.
that's when my life started to change then. You know,
Yeah,
people ask me, Bejoy, let me just say this. People ask me, explain what you do for a living. I say, it's quite simple, really. I'm a psycho-neuro-endocrino immunohematologist. And then they don't ask me any more questions then.
I have a little bit different take on what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the things, and I'm convinced of, I came in with my observer totally on board from the very beginning. And throughout my whole career, I've worked everything I've done around perception. I mean, I really understand the perceptual process. So I don't go pointing the finger outwards, huh? For me personally, of course I do, but not very often. So when I'm talking about feelings, let me see. I don't work with shadow. I work with what I call my compensating structures, because when I came in, I had to figure out how to be in this world. You know, I had to survive. And so I took on a personality and I took on compensating structures. So as an example of that, one of the things that I do really well, probably, but a gift of the abuse, is I compartmentalize. Okay. I can, if I have to go to a work situation, I may have had the most horrible experience, but I'm there in the work situation. But where this compensating structure was not working for me, I still had feelings coming up, but I didn't go back and process them. Okay. So it was a curse and a blessing at the same time. So what I very seldom take my feelings don't turn into emotions, which I project on others. But I've never, I am much more comfortable. Like, for instance, I'm in my snarkiness is coming out these days. I have a snarky aspect, and that's part of me, huh? And I'm not going to suppress the snarky aspect by saying, oh, you're judgmental. You know, you're not supposed to be judged. I'm going to let it come out. Am I going to be snarky towards the person? No, but it's allowing all those parts to surface along with the feelings. And something Lori and Phil Good did a while back, I was really in a vulnerable state around money. And my mind can go into catastrophizing if I let it. And the whole thing was be vulnerable and be courageous at the same time. You have to have a really strong I am presence in order to do that. It is, but that seems to be the name of the game. So I'm talking about letting those I'm not sure the feelings come from the ego is what I'm saying in reaction to what.
Okay. No, I think the way I look at it, you know, and rightly or wrongly, you know, I'm happy with it at the moment, but always willing to sort of grow and evolve. You know, I think what happens is emotions are generated from instincts in collision with one another, unless they're natural, and natural emotions flow. But emotional reactivity, that's an ego, or as you would call it.
Okay.
I think it's a. I think for grief, for example, grief is a flowing, open-hearted, natural feeling.
No, right, I agree with that.
So the stuff you're talking about, I would say it's called a defense arousal response, and it's basically as a threat at some level, whether consciously or unconsciously. So some people call that fight and flight, but there's more components to that fight and flight. And it's also, if there's a threat at some level, and we're mostly consciously unaware of it, then there'll be a defensive arousal response, and we'll go into a protective state, you know. And I think that also, this also works from the genes, and our ancestral stuff as well can come through. Anyway, that's another story. Right. All I'm saying is, if I get a grip in my gut, most people have got different responses to how they go into fight and flight. Some people will grit their teeth. So that's a very powerful defensive reaction. You know, some people will go into a fist thing. Some people will dig their feet in. Some people will go into victim mode where they freeze. So if you know your own bodily responses, because this is what I teach, if you become more aware of your body responses to when you're threatened, then you can become more aware and you can breathe them away as they're developing. And then you become less emotionally reactive and more mindful. So from a mindfulness point of view, you're creating more space so you can be more objective about your own subjectivity. And that's what I learned, is that for me, if I feel anything floating in and it grips me, I've taken the bait at some level. So what I do now is, rather than react and go forward, right, I'll step backwards. Then I'll question my sort of soul or my heart or my intuition, and I'll say, what is the best way for me to go forward with this? And that's how I live my life, you know, and I'm always refining it more and more and more. I used to be such a, look at me the wrong way and I'd be reactive straight away. I hardly ever get emotionally reactive now, you know, a bit like yourself.
Right. Yeah, and you know, I hear you talk about that a lot, and I think you do a really good job of presenting that for people to understand. I'm wondering, have you heard of the Heart Math Institute in the United States?
I use their equipment all the time. I started my PhD at the same time that they were doing the stuff. In fact, I was speaking to Roland McCratty the other day, right, on email, you know.
Yeah, I'm trained as a heart math facilitator.
Right.
I went through their training, and I want to share this example with you because I feel like I'm the exception, even amongst spirit. I mean, I'm an anomaly to the Western. I mean, doctors have been telling me forever I'm dying or I should be dead. But so I'm an anomaly to the Western medicine. But also, there are people out there that are exceptions. So let me just get to what I want to say here. How I survived, okay? First of all, I draw on Adyashanti. Adya says, you awaken at the level of the mind, and I see that happening a lot out there as people are waking up to what's going on. Then you awaken at the level of the heart, which you talk a lot about, but you also awaken at the level of the gut, okay? So, my source, what has kept me alive, is my awakening at the level of the gut in my hara. Okay. In that power center. Because, and I went through all the heart math training. I had to switch from my third eye down into my heart to go through that. I went off my blood pressure medication when I was doing it. But given the circumstance of my life, my heart opens, something happens and it closes. My heart opens, something happens and it closes. If I didn't have my storehouse of my spiritual power in my gut, I wouldn't be here today. So it's like when people say go into your heart, I say yes, but some of us, there are exceptions. Huh? I mean, I totally agree that, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Perfectly. I agree with the three ego states. You know, I think that in Chinese medicine, in Taoism, they have Jing, Chi, and Shen. I think that they're those three things. Jing is ancestral energy, which is associated with the gut, which is associated with instincts and self-protection. I think where I'm up to now is I've let a lot of that Jing stuff go to be transformed through the heart. And in a lot of circumstances, because I see what you said, like an anemone. The anemone's coming out, it opens up, it comes out, explores around. But when it senses, because we're extrasensory and very sensitive radar, when it senses something in the distance, it goes whoosh, and it goes back into the shell. Okay, but I think the more that you can become aware of it trying to go back into the shell or thinking about it, the more that you can go into your heart, develop the courage to stay out a bit more and go a bit further out and explore. So I do understand perfectly what you're saying. And I think sometimes the gut instinct is almost like, it's like preaching caution, but practicing evasion. You know, I think it's still at one level, a fear-based thing from the past. So linking into the amygdala, the limbic system and the hippocampus, it's still associated with, remember this happened in the past. Now, consciously, we might know that, but unconsciously, now this is just me sort of theorizing, but unconsciously, it's still relating and latching onto some sort of deep embedded situation from the past that needs to be looked at a bit more clearly. What do you think about that?
Yeah, hey, I'm open to anything, to be revealed. And what you're saying might be tying into this father energy I have to work on. There was so much time spent on my mother. And she was the reason I had ritualistic abuse. She was the one that ignored my sexual abuse. A long history there. And I am my father's daughter. There's a lot, gene-wise I am, but also given the circumstance, he passed when I'm the youngest of 5 children. He passed when I was about 23. And one of my desires is I wish I could sit down and talk to him right now, and I probably could. But to really understand the struggles that he went through, because I think I'm trying to transmute some of that ancestral energy. And so, yes, it makes sense that at one level I'm seeing that what's happening in my system. Okay, I've been awake at the level of the mind I came in, I was born that way. I've done the heart, but I'm really secure in the gut. I can go into, not all the time, but what they call dual awareness in the trauma communities. I can be like, one time I was working my psoas muscle, which is your spiritual muscle, huh? And I knew some big time stuff was up. I was in such intense pain and I was in a state of bliss at the same time. I went, how did I do this? And it demands being totally in the moment, no story. And I'd like to replicate it more often. And once in a while I do, huh? But it is, it's complex, huh? All we have to do is stay open and let the information come in. And
I agree. I call this essential bioenergetics. And what I've learned is that the release is sequential, because our head might tell us work on this, but in actual fact, to go back to your sphere and look at it in the kaleidoscope, yes. I see a spherical thing. So I don't see any linear thing. What I always see is spheres.
Oh, that's good.
And so really people come in, so there's no levels in this thing. There's just different places on the global aspect. So someone might come in to work on one thing here, and really as soon as they do that one, there's a spin and a shift of the sphere, and there's more realignment takes place. And I sort of see this in a planetary way as well. But to go back to your psoas muscle and your iliopsoas, what I get is a lot of people with pelvic problems and hip problems associated with the knees as well, by the way. There's loads and loads of people who are having knee problems at the moment.
Yes, I know.
And I think symbolically, that's either about putting the best foot forward or standing your ground and all this. You have to work that out individually, because some people have to back off and some people have to step forward. So that, we have to work that out for ourselves. But just to go back to this, from a sequential point of view, we could be working on what we think needs working on, but in actual fact, our intuition is saying, no, just twiddle your ear like that for 10 minutes. And then that other side will fall into place.
Right.
But do you see what I mean? So what I say now is, every morning I say, look, I don't know what to do here. Blank sheet. Give me, please, the actions I need to take today. I'll leave it up to you to work out. Now, I know that I'm talking to my innate intelligence there. I don't get into religion because I'm not involved with that now. And I try and listen in, Bejoy, with my left ear and get a sense of what it's trying to guide me. And it almost like the spirit moves me until I get a clear picture of what I need to take action on. It seems to be working. I've never felt more well. I had 2 heart attacks and it nearly saw me off and all that sort of business.
I know.
I'm not on any medication at all now. My blood pressure's fine. My blood sugar's fine. I feel clear-minded. I'm back to running marathons and swimming in the wild waters and all this sort of stuff. I'm not being stupid because I'm always listening now to this innate intelligence. To go back to neural plasticity and neuroscience, what I really feel is the new energy that's coming in call it a sacred feminine energy, is a magnetic energy. And the magnetic energy is now impacted upon the electrical energy, which is associated with the masculine. And it's almost like realigning it now because it's more powerful. I don't know why I've said all that, but I'm going to pass that back to you.
Would you please say it again? That
Yeah.
sounded significant.
Yeah, so we always go on about electromagnetic effects, you know, the electromagnetic spectrum. But I get the heart is opening now, Joe. It's actually the sacred feminine energy that's sweeping across the planet. The sacred feminine energy is a nurturing energy, but it's more powerful than the electrical energy, which is associated with the masculine. So what's actually coming in now is it's a magneto-electric effect rather than an electromagnetic effect. So as this powerful magnetism is coming in, they sometimes call it a charismatic effect. But because I was brought up in the Roman Catholic Church, I've always associated with that the masculine. But I can see now it's actually, for me, it's a feminine aspect. And just to say these last two things, because I deal with terms in neuroscience, there's two words that are associated. The electrical energy associated with the masculine is called ergotropic. And ergotropic means to do work. Okay. If you were a Catholic, that would be associated with Saint Joseph the worker, right? But yes. the other effect, the feminine one, is called trophotropic, and it means nurturing. And if you can see that we've always been, or in my view, in the Western world, we've always been on the go, get more, on the go, get more. And there's been no sort of deeper consideration and time given to what needs to be done, you know. So that's what I think is really happening. In people are sort of cracking up, and they need to take a step back, use time more efficiently, sink deeper, think things through, and act from a deeper place.
Okay, so with the information that I sent you, I'm interested in your reflection on that. I don't want to go through all the puzzle pieces, but I've had every kind of, I've had Lyme disease. None of these have lasted. I have Lyme disease. I supposedly have diabetes. There are a lot of trauma in my body, a lot of whatever. None of it lasts. It all works itself out. So what's happening to me? Is that the energy that's coming in right now? That is actually.
Yeah, I think 25 years ago, I picked a book up called Vibrational Medicine by somebody called Richard Gerber. And I read it and I thought, this seems right, this. And he's talking about the difference between a frog and a salamander. If you chop a frog's leg off, it won't regrow, but a salamander's will. And I thought, that's interesting. And then they talked about then these morphogenetic fields and all that sort of stuff. I didn't really understand it, but I'm beginning to see that in the invisible realms is a template of pure perfection. But over eons of time, that's almost being shut down by fear-based responses. So that's called epigenetics. So we've almost like created a shroud, which is stopping us. So, but I think what's happening now is we're being forced to look at these fear-based responses, right, and to let them go. Every time we let them go, the energy moves in. We get closer to that primary vibration, which represents pure perfection from the soul's point of view, because each soul is different with a different job. So the soul is not completely unconditional. It's got conditions that it's signed up to, right? I think that beyond the soul is the spirit of unconditional love that provides the power. So just to finish this off, I'm not half going on, but just to finish this off, the more that we release the layers, if you like peeling the onions, the closer the power gets to us, the more clarity, the different actions we can take. And I think what happens then is, so to go back to psycho-neuro-endocrino-immunohematology, it starts off in the mind. That's where the all this perceptual mechanisms are. So we start to see things differently as the filters, the perceptual mechanisms go. We also have less reliance then on matching up with the patterns in our long-term memory, hippocampus, right? So we can go beyond that. We can go beyond that. And I think what's happening is to work from intuition. And in intuition, it's more based on faith and trust than referring back to knowledge of a knowledge base. So I think that makes some sort of sense.
Right. So you recall that the exercise I went through to provide you some sort of sense of what we were going to talk about is I sat down and I said, these are the puzzle pieces I've been putting together that have come to me, through others, and without the story. So an interesting exercise. I was in utero during the Depression, and my family was having a hard time all the way through everything, the black magic that was done on me in the Philippines, to the whole thing. The only time, if you notice, that I got into the story is when I had to tell you who caused the black magic to be put on me. That was a little tidbit that needed to be told. And the other part, nothing was drawn to like, oh, I was a victim, or like, but some parts of my story are so interesting. It's like, it'd be fun to tell them. Anyway, I got to the end and I said, do you know, I think what I've come up with, I must have come from another star system, and I was an experiment. The experiment was, how much can you put a human vessel through that has a strong I am presence holding space for them? I think, and in fact, I don't have any family left or the like, and I'm donating my body to the University of North Carolina. And I would like to say to them, be really interesting to know. I guess I'd like to see the autopsy, because it could be that I'm totally pure inside, huh?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Of course.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Anyway, it's and then what I was sharing with you about 2022, I was in a very expansive place in 2021. That's when I was on Soul Speaks 5D, and it was like, oh my God, I got it. See, because I can't, I needed to do that because everyone was giving me so much feedback. It caused me to look at my multidimensionality, which I'd never done before, because I think my hippocampus prevented me from doing it. Yeah. You agree with that?
I agree, but I don't think the hippocampus, I think it was the connection from the amygdala, right, to the hippocampus.
Okay.
Because the amygdala, there's something called amygdala hijack. Okay. And what it does is it can divert the information or the perceptual mechanisms to the wrong part of the hippocampus where the file store is, you see. So we can get a misperception, but also if we don't understand it, it can feel like the truth. But in actual fact, this is called false memory syndrome. So it's, and from an energetic point of view, I mean, there's loads of stuff. There's what they call glutamate receptors there. And in conditions of fear, the glutamate levels go up, right? And it's sometimes in schizophrenic people, right? The glutamate levels are really high compared to so-called normal people.
Is that now, the amino acid? The amino acid? Is that the amino acid?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. So that's just one thing. There's all sorts of different other neuroreceptors as well. But what I'm trying to say is it's the amygdala hijacks. It produces this chemical reaction which impacts upon the cells and misdirects the energy, really. And so the hippocampus has got two functions. There's a spatial function and there's a recall and recognition function as well.
Nice.
I think that they are out of alignment. So what I've learned is, like you said before, is to forget the story temporarily. So we can't remember anything then. Everything seems like a blur.
Right.
But that's a sort of a reset thing, the great reset in the proper way. And I think what happens then is, as the connections then reset themselves, then the memories start to come back sequentially. And that's when we can work and understand things.
Okay, so when I was experiencing after the eclipse quarter, these memories were just going like this through my brain, that I had opened up something and they were just...
Well, portals, you see, and I agree, you see, because I think and I feel, and this is what I get told, could be wrong, because I don't believe everything that I get until I sink deeper. But I think that every human being has the potential for 12 aspects to be opening up now. There's 12 skills and 12 attributes and 12 innate abilities. People are starting to open up now because this cleansing effect, I see it like one of those things you put in a tube, like a spiral to unblock it. I think that's what's been happening. And all these memories that are coming in from nowhere is just the gunge that's being sort of collected, and is being let go of. But where I also see it is from a cosmic point of view, as the energy's coming in, it's releasing all this stuff. It's coming in through the connective tissue. The connective tissue is where the meridians, the facial tissue.
Well, that's why I'm working on fascia. Yes,
exactly. But that's why there's so many people going through musculoskeletal problems, because it's coming in through the fascia. The fascia are where the meridians, right, and the energy comes into the nadi system.
Right.
The nadi system is connected to the nervous system. The nervous system is connected to the muscular system.
Right.
And that's why we're having all sorts of changes, both in our muscles and in our visceral organs as well. However, Bejoy, we have to let go and allow the universe or the soul or whatever to direct the process. And that's why it's so important. And that's why I keep putting people onto Tai Chi, Hatha yoga, Yin yoga, but especially releasing the tension in the hips, because that's to do with the root and the sacral chakra. And there's so much stuff going on in the sacral chakra, and people are they're being forced now to look at that stuff, and it's all to do with that other word beginning with S and all that. And it's like, oh, I don't want to look at that. Well, I'm afraid people are going to have to start looking at that, Neely, to get a better picture. I'll shut up.
No, this reinforces my intuition, because 1, I do Yin yoga.
Yeah, great.
2, I do Qigong every day. And brilliant. 3, I've been working on my fascia.
Fantastic.
And how did intuition, huh? Intuition.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
So that's very reinforcing, because I have a lot of muscular pain and a lot of whatever. But I've dealt with that all my life. So I kind of, anyway, I want to go back to, so I was in this expansive state. Now, throughout my journey, I know when I get expansive, I'm going to contract, because that's the nature of the universe. Huh?
Of course.
And the more the expansion, the greater the contraction is going to be. Huh? And obviously I came in to do some whatever. And so my contractions are really contractions. So I experienced that at the beginning of 2022. And where I was going to go once again through survival financially. And I know you listened to Amanda Lawrence and her description of what was happening during that time. And I basically said, I don't believe any of this stuff that I've been, it must be totally trash, huh? And no, it is that getting down to, is any of this stuff true? Huh? And then you work your way through it, as the energy helps you along. So I, through the help of some really dear friends and some other things, I did. I was told, not as clearly as I'm told things now. Okay, you have to give up any reliance on anything external. Well, I've been doing that, Joe, for 10 years. So what's left? You give up the chiropractor, the acupuncturist, you give up all your vitamins, you give up your credit rating because you're going to let all your bills go. And I'm like, any expectation that the government's going to help us seniors over here in the United States. And I'm like, why do I have to do this? I mean, there was great resistance, huh? It's like, no. This is more than I signed up for. But the fascinating thing is I didn't need to go to the acupuncturist. I had apparently, because I was going every other week, apparently worked out all the stuff. I got along fine without my vitamins. I'm living with the consequences of having screwed up my credit score right now. But I didn't need to eat a lot during that time. And anyway, things were getting better. And I was getting a little bit more stability. And then after I worked my knee issues, so I'm glad you clarified that, I came out of the eclipse quarter. I was, okay, I have to clean up my 3D mess now because I've been off someplace. And I was sitting on the floor and I tried to get up and my left knee went out totally. I couldn't walk. And I'm like, and I know how to breathe through pain and to move it and all that. And I said, what's going on? And this leads me to believe I've really embodied my I am presence. And by the way, I tell any guides out there, you go talk to my I am presence. That's the only vehicle that my I am presence has gone. I used to be able to, it did uploads when I was in a contemplative mode. This one came straight in. Okay. You are now going to enter your PhD, your experiential PhD in energy management. Let's see if you've learned all of these things over the years. This is a simulation. What's this simulating? You're about to turn 80 years old. You obviously have some subconscious concerns about being disabled. You have no family. You don't have money to have caretakers. So what can you do? And actually, I used to in the past say, God, if you come down right here and tell me what I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. And I said, okay, I'm taking it on. So for 2 months, what it demanded in terms of me being in presence, not going into victim consciousness, changing the way I did everything, all of which are things we're supposed to be doing in this energy, I think. Anyway, I got through that, and I'm saying, okay, this is a mistake I've made. Not a mistake. It's what I do. It's like, okay, have I finished? Did I get my, the funny thing, I just want to stop here. I did my PhD coursework, but I didn't write my dissertation because I got married and went off. But it's like, I'm going back. Okay, so we've been saving my dissertation until now, which and experiential, huh? Yeah. After this, the universe opened up. I'd been living in for 10 years in a place that was both physically and vibrationally unhealthy for me, and stayed there because of the rent. And I realized this has got to change, and the universe just opened up and set me in this place. Like it was, I never believed I could have a place like this for the amount. And so I'm saying, okay, we must be close to the end of our PhD dissertation. No, every day it's coming. It's like, okay, you passed that test. Now we're going to give you another one. Like, I get the state government finally started giving more money, food stamps for. Yeah. So there was, I have this abundance of money to buy food, which I didn't in the past, and no cash. So I go into the grocery store. How wonderful it is. I can go even get my favorite food. And then I come out and I say, but I wonder if I have enough money for gas. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm going between two dimensions at the same time. And sometimes it's crazy making, huh?
Yeah. No, I understand perfectly. I understand. And I can feel those things coming in all the time. That sort of bipolarity. And as you say, right. And the sort of, because I live sort of energetically from an open heart now, I can feel the instincts coming up from the gut, but I can feel the information coming down as well. It's a bit like transactional analysis, really, but it's being guided from outside that, really, and so I'm going, if I was going to sort of label where I'm up to, the closest thing would be Taoism, really. It would be Taoism,
What I'm finding, I think this part of I've met, I can very, very quickly get back into alignment.
Yeah.
By recognizing what's happening to me. Okay, we're going between two things, and that's all right. This is all part of what we're doing. And then breathing through it. I think everything you say about breath. In fact, I thought about you. After I got moved, I went into a really where I just wanted to meditate. And one day I thought, God, I'm breathing just like Dr. Joe says, the slow breaths. Don't you talk about the 6 minutes or something?
Yeah.
I didn't even try. I wasn't even trying. I thought, wow, this is just what he's talking about. It's like my whole system had just.
I think what happens is in stress, consciously or unconsciously, we go into that defensive mode, which is basically the somatic nervous musculoskeletal thing. So we go into fight mode, right? In order to get out of that, if the situation isn't really threatening, because let's be honest, The only time when it's really threatening is when our physical security is threatened.
No, that's
You know,
true. And mine's
you know,
been,
and then
I-
anything other than that is either emotional, feeling wise, or it's psychological or thinking wise. Those can always be stopped and rethunk.
right.
You know, so the idea is if you feel yourself tense and constrained, you can actually throw cold water over your face. That'll unlock it, or you
Right.
can breathe all the way out. The out breath is associated with the vagus nerve, which is associated with the sacred feminine, which
Right.
is
Yeah,
associated with letting go. You see, and because we've
Right.
been so sympathetic predominant for thousands and thousands of years, it's obviously going to be difficult now for that side to let go and
Yes.
relinquish control. But if the sacred energy mother's coming in, I talked about Oedipus with somebody recently, but it's almost like an Oedipus complex. But the mother's got to come in now in a more nurturing way and more caring way. So there's almost
Right.
like a stroking now, which is guiding the masculine and almost like showing them how if they take certain actions, it will benefit both of them. So I see this as that sort of the union, the sacred union of the masculine and feminine. Can I just say something about the left-hand side is normally associated with the relationship between mothers and fathers, daughters and fathers, believe it or not.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
so that left-hand side, right, is almost like coming back on now, right, and opening up.
Wait, that's father and daughter?
Yeah, father and daughter. Yeah, I was only talking to somebody. I swear to you, I was only talking to somebody about this exact same thing, because she's got the same problems with her left-hand side and her left knee as well, strangely enough.
That's why we're going to talk today, is because you were to give me, that helps put my two puzzle pieces together. Why it's my left knee and that I need to work my father energy.
Yeah, and cool. I think it's, and what I see in my mind is, rightly or wrongly, I see constrictions and sort of the heart will just, if you allow the heart and the body to relax, it will almost like spiral that out and kick all that crap out, right? And then there'll be a rebalancing. But BJ, I don't know, sit with it. If it feels right, go with it and whatever. No. Really,
What I really appreciate, is you give a different perspective. You're a great turn of the kaleidoscope.
Right. Thanks very much.
I have one request. Since I'm about to turn 80, can I read my poem on the story of my vehicle?
Of course you can. I can put it up if you like.
No, let me read it.
Okay.
Okay, so this was in the middle 90s. Oh dear me, I may get emotional doing this. I'm so glad this was in the middle 90s before there's any of this lingo out here about what was happening to me or jargon and the like, because this is just a pure expression of metaphorically what was happening to me. And when I read it, I have a great deal of compassion for myself. And so I'm honoring my human self by reading to you my poem on the story of my vehicle. I was born into this world with a functioning vehicle. It was cute and it ran well. My vehicle was damaged early in life, damaged internally where no one could see the effects. Because it didn't want to go to the junkyard, it compensated for the damage, but the internal problems kept erupting to the surface. Because my vehicle had a huge engine, it was able to absorb much pressure without exploding. After my vehicle gave up on someone else fixing it, it found ways to relieve the ever-building pressure from the years of damage. And it just kept going and going and going. It had things done externally to make itself look good, but the internal fixes didn't reach inside, the external fixes. It just, it became so polluted, it didn't care about keeping its insides clean. What difference would it make? One day it got stuck in oil and the oil turned the pollution to tar, and the tar seriously impaired the way the engine had learned to adapt to its condition. Then finally, someone began to help. These are my 3 healers I had. Someone began to help. First of all the particles attached to the tar had to be removed. A long, tedious process. The engine could breathe again, but the tar was still there and built up its devastating effects. Then someone else came and removed the tar. and the engine went into a state of shock. It rattled and it spurted. The removal of the tar had unsettled the way the engine had modified itself to handle the pressure of the past. More help came and began slowly helping the engine to reassemble its parts to function as they should. One part needed to be removed to allow room for the internal cleaning system to work. During the process, the engine could no longer function as it once had. It slowed down and various parts developed malfunctions. The vehicle was worried. It forgot what normal functioning was like, and the intermittent days of high velocity running that occurred didn't produce a sustaining effect. It wondered if it was permanently damaged. It didn't want to run like this in an impaired state. Going to the junkyard just almost seemed better. But those that helped assured the vehicle that it just took time to fix all the damage and that it should rest in preparation for a rebirth. When the engine got straightened out, it would be clear what it needed to run smoothly and efficiently in the future. So if that was 1995, here I am, how many years later? I'm running smoothly and efficiently.
Well, I think that's marvelous. And I really resonated with that, you know, because as a kid, I reconditioned lots and lots of engines and had to spend a lot of time degunking engines and stuff. But this is what I get. Spiritual bioregenesis, right, is true. Spiritual bioregenesis. And I think that's what's happening now, is that when, and the invisible realms, right, our psyche and our mind is being changed. And that then will translate into physical manifestations of cleaning. You know, I really feel this now. I've got no physical evidence or any research evidence, but I go with what I feel. And I don't care, because I work in an environment where people are always looking for proof. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? Where's the proof? Right. You know, I don't have to explain myself to anybody. I feel like a miracle myself, you know, and I feel that we're all being changed in the invisible realms, which is materializing now in the physical realms. You know, there are so many people get onto me, especially about musculoskeletal problems. I've written a couple of papers actually on myofascial trigger points and how to reset them through deep massage and movements, you know. So I've written, but what we did was we showed that if we work on those, the heart changes. And that's why I got into this, really, because there's a viscerosomatic and a somatovisceral response. And all that means is that the inside and the outside's connected, right? And that's what's happening now. I think from the outside, well, as I said before, through the connective tissue, the nervous system is being excited to change the musculoskeletal system. And in the end, our stem cells are all being reprocessed. You know, Bejoy, there's so much going on. But my big thing is get out of the way and allow the process to happen.
I agree with you. You have to totally trust the process. You got to totally.
We don't have to do it. We have to be done to. And that's the hard part.
I totally agree.
Right. And things like Qigong, Tai Chi, all those sort of things. I spent a lot of time reading. I don't know whether you ever heard of Mantak Chia and the fusion of the 5 elements, you know, Mantak Chia. And he's all about working with the connective tissue, all about that sort of self-flagellation. People thought it was about hurting oneself, but it was really to stimulate all the cells of the body and allow all the, you know, we could go on forever, but we've come to time. Thank you so much for this. We'll have to have another one in a few months' time to see how we're progressing.
I really appreciate you providing the space for me to talk with you and all the valuable insights that you've given me. Now I get to go off and process them.
But as I say to everybody is, please, you know, don't believe, you know, sit in yourself. And if something resonates with you, it probably meant, sit with it, put it in your heart and just say, what was he going on about then? Or what was Bejoy talking about? And that then will provide some inspiration and intuition, I think, for people. On that note, I'm going to shut up. God bless you. May the force remain with you forever and ever. Amen.
Yes.
And
come play in the cosmic sandbox with me again.
That's the one. Speak to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.